Hello everyone, this is Race First Survival for Monday, September 7th, 2015. I have some more invasion news as far as Europe goes, some developments on that Syrian, the washed up dead Syrian boy that was used to exploit the hearts and minds of Europeans to open up their doors, open up their homes, as the Pope said, to these people. And more news on how these countries and the people themselves are reacting to it. And like before, we'll start out with this article, this headline right here. Left-wingers put advertisements in third world newspapers begging immigrants to keep coming. This was the Danish, and this was in reaction to the government saying that these people have to start speaking the language there in order to receive full benefits. They still receive half benefits, just not full, until they learn the language. So pretty reasonable, but they say here, what we would love to accomplish is to see Danish politicians stop making life harder for the refugees coming here. But we also think that it's important to let people know in Denmark and abroad that many Danes want to stop this dehumanization of refugees. So that's the point that I like to make, which is all of this stuff in the media is to get you to humanize, to have empathy, and to create some kind of emotional connection with these people, these foreigners. These are the type articles that they've been putting out since I last put out my news reports on the 27th of last month. Just every day I've been seeing them. Candy and cuddly toys, migrants finish epic trek to Germany, and the way these headlines were titled, they were titled in such a way that it was supposed to get the audience, the reader, to be jumping up and down, cheering in ecstasy, I guess, that these people, these invaders actually arrived safely into Europe. Separate propaganda blitz is on its way. This is called the National Welcoming Week. It's run by the government. It's actually, these events are going across the country, and this is building up prior to when Obama will tell Congress that more refugees from Syria, an additional 65,000 on top of the original 70,000, will be admitted in 2016, which begins October 1st. This is a plan that was crafted, an emergency plan, by what they're dubbing the Jihad Caucus, or 14 U.S. senators. So they say that this National Welcoming Week from the 12th to the 20th of September is a nationwide event that will highlight the contributions of immigrants to American communities throughout the country. These events will bring together immigrants and U.S.-born community members in a spirit of unity. It says here that in France, Holland's going to open France's doors to 24,000 refugees. This is another article just today, Monday. Britain to take in 20,000 Syrian refugees over 5 years. You see right here, this is the key. This is what we're talking about here. Image of dead boy piles pressure on UK's Cameron over Syrian refugees. So this is the power of propaganda. That just over the weekend, they were able to coerce these countries' leaders to take in thousands of these refugees, even when most of the people don't even want it. The British people reject media manipulation. They say they don't want any more invaders. When asked the question, extra Syrian refugees, should Britain admit higher numbers of these Syrian refugees than it has, says yes. 36% said yes, followed by 14% saying admit none, 13 admit lower numbers, 24 saying keep numbers the same, while 13 saying they don't know. Basically, only 9% of people have changed their views as a result of this grotesque media propaganda blitz. You have to remember, UK is already seeing the highest immigration numbers ever. So this is the most recent news about the washed up dead boy. It says here that the picture was actually manipulated. This is the original position or location of the child washed up between the rocks, and they actually moved it right there to get a better picture. So I've noticed a lot of comments, oh, my heart was ripped out of my chest, and when I saw this photo, and tears, I couldn't stop crying. And that's what it's supposed to induce. But for me, when I see stuff like that, it's like you have to be wary of what you're seeing, because there's a lot of manipulation, perception management, thought control, and so stuff like that can be used to get you to think in terms that are not beneficial to you or your people. Okay, so here it says that the father that killed his whole family, basically He wanted free dental care in Europe. So the boy's dad was safe and well and living in Turkey. It says here that he was never in a war zone. He was receiving, free rent. He had $4,400 in cash. He sent his family over there first to apply for refugee status, and then he was going to come in afterwards. So yeah, I mean, the whole point is that they're saying that these people are war refugees and fear their lives that are fleeing. And so the point of these videos, and anyone else out there that's doing this, is to destroy that narrative. UK Independence Party politician tells the truth about the dead invader. It says here that predictable, unthinking outrage. Turkey is not a place where the family was in danger. Leaving that place put the family in peril. The little Syrian boy was well clothed and well fed. He died because his parents were greedy for the good life in Europe. So essentially what we just proved here was that the 10,000, 20,000, so thousand in France and in Britain that were just authorized over the weekend on Saturday, whatever, in Luxembourg, and just bam, they made a decision, carved out a plan just on Monday, was all based off lies. But then again, isn't this whole open border, multiculturalism, diversity thing a lie too? So those who are aware of this, they have to try to coerce them into it, guilt trip them, whatever, threaten them. Just recently, one of the biggest stories was that they were trying to, EU was considering sanctions. So if you weren't going to allow migrants in, you're going to actually have to pay. You can pay for them to not come, or you can pay for them to come. But in Serbia, it says here that the government was actually trying to ban these anti-immigration protests, and they do that in other places too. In Germany, they did that with Pegida. In Canada, like this, Canada less welcoming to refugees under Harper's leadership. So I'm sure they can be a lot less welcoming in Canada if they really wanted to. But we remember that article that we covered. They weren't race mixing enough. Essentially, that's what they were saying. The anti-racists, they didn't like that. It's not so much the Europeans or the white Canadians. It's not so much that they're not mixing. It's that the people that are coming there aren't. That's right, and that's what they find. In their research is that these people create ethnic silos and they basically self-segregate, which again kind of disproves their whole diversity, multiculturalism theory or narrative. The EU is considering imposing sanctions on countries that don't want to take part in the proposed new relocation scheme for 120,000 refugees. There's the opt-out clause that we're talking about. So a politician from Slovakia says, "We do not want any payment nor mandatory quotas. We need to prevent people from coming." But he said Slovakia will not oppose decisions taken by the majority of EU countries, and that's why. Because like they said, obviously countries like Slovakia, Poland, and Hungary have benefited financially due to being in the EU. So it comes down to the money, right? Economic man over racially aware man. You have here, New York Times warns Europe against Australia's successful migration policies. So it says here, Australia is the only country in the world to successfully tackle the problem of migrant boats. It does it by saying no to irregular seafaring arrivals, while at the same time admitting genuine refugees through an orderly process of entry. But that's not enough. You got to have complete open gates, open door policy. It says here, some European officials may be tempted to adopt the hard-line approach Australia has seen or has used to stem a similar tide of migrants. You see? I'd say a hardline approach would be Australia doesn't allow anyone in that isn't white. So they go on there, it says his policies in Australia have been inhumane, right? Inhumane, dehumanizing, of dubious legality and strikingly at odds with the country's tradition of welcoming people fleeing persecution and war. That Australia has just recorded 12 months without a single refugee boat arrival. We covered this before. This is August 18th. Austria is set to force towns to take refugees. So, just like we were saying before, faced with local resistance, the people, the sellout politicians have struggled to respond to more than 28,000 people requesting asylum in the first 6 months of this year. Seems to be like a pretty obvious solution or answer. Just do what your people want. But see, you have to remember, as Europeans or European Americans, as white people, we're not allowed, or at least it's not good, it's not condoned, it's not socially acceptable, it's not politically correct to identify with your group. That's very important. If you're transsexual, if you're multiracial, you can identify with that group. In fact, they encourage you to do that. But if you are white, you are not supposed to identify with your tribe, with your group, with your racial ancestors. Something very odd about that, very telling too. They want us to just be isolated and be individuals to the extreme, that we don't give a shit about what's happening around us to other people that are part of our group. This is from Sunday. Migrants stream into Austria, hoping to move to destination Germany. So, thousands of migrants were still streaming across Hungary's border with Austria on Sunday morning, more than 24 hours after German and Austrian authorities bowed to pressure to accept one of the largest waves of displaced people since World War II. They're not going to call them invaders, are they? From 17 hours ago, Austria to revoke measures that let migrants cross from Hungary. They're planning to end emergency measures that have allowed thousands of refugees stranded in Hungary into Austria and Germany. Austria had suspended its random border checks after photographs of a Syrian toddler lying dead on a Turkish beach showed Europeans the horror faced by those desperate enough to travel illegally into the heart of Europe. There you go, you see? And look at this, just came up. Refugees get a hero's welcome. Hero's welcome in Germany as the UN wraps Europe. Bad Europe. Angela Merkel. No legal limit, no limits to asylum seekers Germany can take. September 5th. They predicted that up to 800,000, almost 1 million migrants would arrive by the end of this year. Many of them were refugees. Well, no, see, again, they're lying to you. That's not true. And let's say they were, and they are a minority. Those are wars that could have been prevented. So if they did not stick their nose into the Syrian and the Arab Spring and all that, Libya would have never went down. Gaddafi would have never went down. What he predicted would have never happened, which was hundreds of thousands of black Africans invading, colonizing, and changing Europe into a Muslim continent. It's happening right before our very eyes. They took him down, that happened. And now they're still, as ISIS is creating these refugees, they could just support Assad and get this crap over with. But they're not. Because they want Assad to go down, and they're willing, just for this one guy, Assad, just to take him down, they're willing to just let ISIS run the Middle East and create all these refugees. It's insane. It's an insane policy. German rail, invaders travel free. This is actually posted. It says here, notice of disruption. Attention, today on the instructions of the company's management board, do not perform any ticket checks or collect ticket fares from migrants. 5/9/2015. So free ride. Thousands of stupid Germans openly welcome and cheer foreign invaders. That's where that one article was saying about the heroes welcome. Welcome to Munich, and people smiling. You know, such a warm welcome. Yeah, these naive people are going to seriously regret this. They don't seem to grasp the concept that people do not view the world the same way that we do. They do not have the same value system, nor do they have the same spiritual nature. Openly offering to give these people free stuff is just going to encourage more of them to come in until the entire system collapses. But they're not the only useful idiots or naive people. 20,000 people rallied to support migrants in Vienna, Austria. 20,000 people supporting migrants, pro-invasion protest. Swiss police fire at communist agitators promoting ethnic cleansing in Zurich. So pro-refugee protest in Switzerland as well. You have to remember this from last year, almost December 2014. Remember when the Swiss had a chance to stop this? Swiss voters reject severe immigration quotas. They were going to dramatically slash immigration. But 74% of the Swiss voters turned down the anti-immigration initiative. God, I could just have a live broadcast here. This just came out. Germany's Merkel says record refugee influx will change the nation. Ooh, change, right? Where I first saw it. Germany, a place of hope. Hope, change the face of the nation. What is a nation? It's a people. That's a German people. They're going to be changed. That's what she's saying. Ready for this, guys? Elderly Germans being evicted from homeless shelter to make room for illegal immigrants. One resident said, I've lived here for 40 years. They just throw you out. Another said, we have to leave to make place for these others. Who are these others? I don't dare say. I said this before, this slogan, open your hearts, open your wallets, open your homes. And look at, the Pope said this over the weekend, Vatican will shelter 2 families fleeing war. He called on others across Europe to do the same. But hey, Israel, they're too small to take in these refugees. And no one will say a damn thing. This is Race for Survival. Thank you.